I'm sure that my mom, who was out for a walk this morning, has texted me during this conversation thus far to tell me about her walk. And I can't wait to hear about the walk. However, in this moment, I'd rather stay in the conversation. And we do this all
Yeah,
the time. You know,
yeah.
we could succumb to the distractions that are all around us. We could literally give ourselves away constantly. I just think we can do better and create more potential than to do so. I think we can do better.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast. I'm your host, Audley Stevenson. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. You know, this podcast is dedicated to helping you live your best audacious life ever. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on this journey of exploration, growth, and connection. Together, we'll dive into the principles of audacious living, uncovering insights that can empower and inspire you to embrace life with courage and authenticity. Now, let me set the stage here for you because it's a familiar one and it's an analogy. I think you'll get where I'm going with this. Imagine you're at a vibrant party and it's filled with laughter and music and the delightful aroma of good food. Now, instead of engaging with people around you, you're glued to your phone. And we've seen this many times before. People are scrolling through their social media or distracted by the latest news headlines. In that moment, that party becomes a missed opportunity for genuine connection. You know, just as distractions can pull us away from lively interactions at a party, they can also hinder our ability to connect meaningful with in our everyday lives with other people. By focusing on kindness and being present, we can transform fleeting moments into lasting relationships, enriching our experiences far beyond, the superficial. Now, today, we've got the pleasure of speaking with Greg Bennick. He's an accomplished team-building speaker, author, and he's dedicated his career to helping individuals and organizations reclaim their focus and enhance their connections. With a unique blend of humor and insight, Greg engages audiences worldwide, sharing the passion for meaningful interactions and the power of kindness. Greg also recently published a book called Reclaim the Moment, 7 Strategies to Build a Better Now, where he explores how to navigate distractions and embrace the present. Greg's insights are incredibly relevant to today's discussion on the impact of distractions and the importance of kindness as a foundational principle for our interactions. His expertise in team dynamics and personal development provides a rich backdrop for understanding how we can cultivate deeper connections in our lives. It really is a great conversation. I love the things that Greg has to share. So without any further ado, let's turn to our chat. Enjoy. Hey, Greg, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you making the time to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And, audacious living is about stepping into the unknown. And
Yes.
this morning, I'd mentioned to you before we started recording, I had some incredible technical issues with my main camera. I'm using an alternative camera. The show must go on. We'll step into the unknown and let's see where
The,
we go. I love it.
no, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, we go through life, and we have no guarantees what the day is going to unfold. We have no idea. Problems are going to come, challenges are going to come, obstacles are going to come. No one's going to, we're not going to get a note and say, "Hey, at 3 o'clock, the problem man's coming to your door, and he's going to list a whole bunch of stuff at your doorstep. You're going to have to deal with it. You may not get through it, but it's yours anyways. So just be ready at 3 o'clock." That's not
Yeah.
life.
Yep. It's true.
So
And the
yeah.
alternative is also that there's never going to be a time where I say to you, oh, I'm so excited. I've got no problem zone is Thursday between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. No problems whatsoever. Life is perfect for those hours. Can't wait because today is a real burden. Yeah, it's never going to happen.
It is, and so now that we've gotten that piece out of the way, right? It's okay. So then, what do we, what does life truly look like? And life truly does look like it's from problems and distractions and things that get in our way and obstacles. And I oftentimes say it's incumbent on us to find a way. We got boulder, we got in our path to get up, over, around, through, underneath, whatever, but to get to the other side. Because my true belief is on the other side is where our greatness lies, and that's where all the wonderful things. But we just got to go through the problems to get there.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting? And I didn't intend to even talk about this today, but isn't it interesting that I could make an entire reality out of the fact that my camera, my main camera, is broken, right? If I didn't say anything, listeners wouldn't even know. They'd be like,
No, I have
"Oh,
no clue.
right,
No clue.
exactly." Okay, so I can make a whole thing about problems always happen to me. I can't believe I have to replace an $800 camera. Maybe I don't have to replace an $800 camera. I could go on for the next 10 minutes with the
Right.
maybes and the this and the ins and the outs. Or you just push through.
That's
Forget
right.
the camera. Let's have a conversation,
That's
right?
right.
But I wonder how often we do that all the time with,
All the time.
right, the
I'll answer that
store.
question all the time.
Yeah, the store is out of the bread that I usually buy. Maybe I should go to a different store. Maybe I should stop eating bread. Maybe I should, how much time do we spend with the distractions in here that we create, the stories we create about situations in which we find ourselves? So
And what I find interesting in using the camera as an example, no one else on the planet would know except for you.
that's it.
No one else knows. No,
Yep,
like even right now they're going camera. What camera is he talking about?
that's
No
right.
one knows. But you've got it, and it's and it's ruminating, it's growing, it's evolving, it's festering, it's taking up valuable time and brain power. And really, is it an issue?
It's so funny. 15 minutes ago, when I noticed the camera went out, I actually, in my brain, at one angle of it was, oh my gosh, I just bought this camera. Another angle was, I can't believe my friend told me to buy this camera. Like I got mad at my friend. I don't even know what's going on with the camera. I got mad at my friend. Like, can you imagine this? Like, I start in my head, I created conflict between me and my friend, who, who told me to buy the camera. Like, what is that about? Like, I created this thing. It's unbelievable.
Stories, the stories we tell ourselves,
Right,
and it's also the stories we subscribe to.
right.
Like that. Those are so big ones. Greg, I felt like we're off to a flying start here. Our audience would love to know a little bit more about you and the work that you do. So maybe as a starting point, although we've already started, if I'd open up the floor and have you come in and sort of talk about your work, and distraction is a big part of what you focus on. But there's more to you than just that.
There's more. So I'm a team building speaker ultimately who focuses on focus, right? Where do we put
Okay.
our focus and where do we find meaning in what we do? I've always felt that when we feel as though we are part of something meaningful and that the work that we do matters and we're focused as a team, that all of a sudden we have stronger teams. And I could sit here all day long and talk about team dynamics, but ultimately I'm about bringing people together and about making connections between people and making sure that people are on the same page as they're doing work that genuinely feels like it matters because it does. So I do keynote speeches that are comedy keynote speeches and presentations, and then also do workshops and trainings around that. So I wrote a book this last year called Reclaim the Moment: 7 Strategies to Build a Better Now, which is about bringing ourselves back to center when we've been thrown off track by a very distracting world. And that's basically, in a nutshell, the work that I do. I've been performing and speaking ever since I was 13 years old. I started at a very young age. So I started doing presentations very young. Granted, not this presentation, but I've been in front of audiences my entire life and connecting with people all over the world.
It's just evolved. It's just evolved into what it is now, and I do love the topic of being centered, right? And so much well, okay, how often is it that we've got these distractions, we've got all these things going on, and we're not paying attention to the small, minute things. I heard someone talking the other day about maybe you're have you ever paid attention, slow down, like washing a plate and making sure that you get every single speck of grain or dirt on that plate as you're washing with your hand. And look how the bubbles and the suds, form and as they trickle down the plate. And then you rinse the water and you watch the water. Like that is being present at a level that, that we generally aren't. Well, it's wash, wash, wash. I gotta go to the next task. But, and I also recognize that it's not always we're not always often able to have that level of presence in every single thing that we do.
Right.
But there is value in finding the time, even if it's short periods of time, isn't there?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And I mean, and this is true, not just in the workplace or with our teams or with leadership and those sorts of, the sorts of benchmark terms that we use, but all the time. Like it's about being present in this call. It's
Yeah.
about me thinking, wow, what are your listeners in this moment getting from our conversation? How can we bring more value for your listeners right now? Not
Mhm.
next Thursday after I decide on this
Right.
new promo piece that right now.
Yep.
This is the bubbles and suds. This is the specks of food on the plate of life right now. That's what we're
That's it.
doing here.
That's it. That's it. So, how did you land on focus? Is that an area of focus for you?
So when I was 13 years old, I actually was signed up by mistake for a mini course. I'll explain this. I have an interest, a passion in rare coins that started when I was about 10 years old.
Okay.
I sit on the board of two coin organizations. I write for three different coin publications. I'm always thinking and working on coin related things.
Okay.
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 That started when I was 12. I wanted to take a class in coin collecting when I was 12, an after school mini course. And I signed up for this coin collecting mini course. And the school secretary accidentally signed me up for a juggling course by mistake. So I
Okay.
walk into this juggling course on the first day, and
Yeah.
there's a kid juggling three baseballs. And I looked at him and I said, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Immediately. Now, I became a juggler and was performing very early on. That became a speaker, later
Sure.
on. But what I didn't realize is that what I was amazed by with this kid was his focus. It wasn't the
Mm.
juggling as much as it was his focus, his ability to watch one thing happen. My brain doesn't work that way. I've been all over the map ever since I was born. So when I saw this kid juggling, I went, oh, wow, it is possible to focus. And that's where the journey started. And over time, I realized just how hard it is to keep and find our focus amidst, as I said, a world of distractions. I mean, there's people who pay a lot of money to make sure that you and I can't have this conversation. I mean, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot of people who pay a lot of money to keep our advertising eyeballs on what they're
Oh, yeah.
advertising, you
Sure.
know?
Sure.
Um, and it's subtle and it's nefarious in a way, meaning that
Hmm.
and that is again, it's not conspiracy. I mean, the
No.
reason that I
No.
have Sportiva brand boots that are waterproof is because at some point Sportiva put ads in front of my face so that
Yeah.
last month when I went, I need boots. Ah, Sportiva, like it
There we
came out of
go.
nowhere.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
The
Right, right.
distraction opportunities for us are all over the place. And when I was very young and realized how important focus was, it really started to come into play literally and figuratively. When I was juggling, I was like, wow, this is so cool. I can focus. And then I realized how important that was for everybody as I grew up in life and in this.
Mm. Don't get me started on algorithms and the way they take over our lives. I mean, that's a whole other. But again, we're not here. This is a conspiracy podcast. That's where we're going. But there is some validity to what you're saying, and so I think this is a kind of a nice segue. You wrote a book about taking control of your life and capturing
Oh
the
yeah,
moment,
sure.
and you said you had 7 strategies. Can we kind of run through them real quickly to give you an audience an idea of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And just to be clear, like, I think that it's interesting that it's not even conspiratorial to talk about this kind of approach to looking at society and where we sit in it. If you and I open a pizza place tomorrow, we're going to
Hmm.
tell every single person we know about our pizza place. And in fact, then what we're going to do is we're going to tell them if you come in on Tuesdays, you get 25% off. But if you
We
come in
will.
on Thursdays, we're going to throw in a basket of fried mushrooms as well, whatever it might be. The point is, those are points of imprinting our brand. And I think it makes sense if brands exist that they would want to imprint on us. The problem is from all these different angles, we get to a point where we can't even function anymore, and we
Yes.
certainly can't
Yes.
function as teams, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
in terms of the strategies, I start off the book with a strategy called believe in the possibility of kindness, and I talk about to emerge or to escape ultimately the trap of pessimism, and what
Okay.
I talk about is that we often put ourselves in situations where we can't interact with one another effectively because we feel pessimistic. Well, I don't know if this podcast is going to lead to anything. I don't know if this conversation is going to go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Rather than saying, "Hey, here's a potentially kind-hearted soul who I can connect with and just have a great conversation, regardless of what comes of it, if anything comes."
Right.
This is what comes of it, right? This is the bubbles and
Right.
spuds. So, when we believe in the possibility of kindness, we create opportunities, and ultimately, all the strategies in the book are about creating possibilities. Whether, for example, chapter 2, keep your eyes on the knife. It's a juggling metaphor. If you're
Okay.
juggling two bean bags and a knife, where are you going to keep your focus? And I always say, I hope it's going to be on the knife. And
Sure.
the reason I wrote this as a chapter is because what's most important? What's the knife? What's the thing that if it falls or fails, it delivers the most impact or potential injury to you or your business or your life? That's where we need to have our focus. And that's where I customize presentations like, okay, what's the knife? What are we going after here?
Yes.
But
Yes.
all of the
Yes.
strategies are like that. Developing relationships that matter is one of them. And there's a strategy about leaping into the dark, about what happens if we don't take the leap into the dark? What happens if we restrain ourselves from it? And then we limit our potential and possibility for growth. So
Yep.
all of the strategies are rooted in these sorts of ideas and thinking, and they're all in the book rooted in terms of fun approaches that I've seen connections with in terms of my own life. So there's
Sure.
stories all throughout the book, personal stories that are quite fun that help communicate the
Tell a
message.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I do like the idea of reclaiming the moment. And because and why that resonates with me personally, it really speaks to how important the now is, right? Like what we're doing right now, it does matter. Greg, you and I are engaged in a conversation. I'm all in right now.
That's right.
And nothing else matters. And our phones may be buzzing and vibrating, but I don't care about that because it's so see the thing with distractions, they're always going to be there. Is whether it's how much attention we choose to give them,
That's
right?
right.
And so if I want to wonder where my phone is at, and if I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything, I'm giving it attention. But
That's
what that
right.
also is doing is pulling away from the now, and so it's really about. So I think reclaiming the moment is just a wonderful title.
I love that. I'm so glad because there was a lot of back and forth about what the title should be and how we should approach it. And I worked with my publisher on that. And it was funny. They had a team of about 30 people who came together and came up with some ideas that didn't quite work, not because they're inefficient, terrible, or awful people, but just because I knew what I was going after. And I actually came up with the title, Reclaim the Moment, Reclaim the Moment, 7 Strategies to Build a Better Now. And as soon as I did, I was like, oh, this is it. This is exactly the right title. This is what I want to be talking about and thinking
Mm,
and doing. Because I agree with you, right? I'm sure that my mom, who was out for a walk this morning, has texted me during this conversation thus far to tell me about her walk. And I can't wait to hear about the walk. However, in this moment, I'd rather stay in the conversation. And we do this all
yeah,
the time.
yeah.
We could succumb to the distractions that are all around us. We could literally give ourselves away constantly. I just think we can do better and create more potential than to do so. I think we can do better.
And I really do think it's a good exercise in prioritization to what really truly matters, what is really really important. Like again, we'll use the phone. Yeah, it could be buzzing right now, and all it could be a notification from my Instagram account for something that's not important right now, right? And how many times that happened where you'll run to the phone thinking it's something and it's nothing important, right? But in that moment, like I gotta. So prioritization, I think, is key here in understanding that okay, I've got a podcast, okay, and I in a podcast and where I sit down and share with bright, interesting people like yourself that have value to offer the world, and that's important to me. So it doesn't matter what's happening on my phone right now. I'm doing something now that I've deemed as important. Now,
That's right.
if it changes to something else, and maybe this conversation isn't important to me, but Greg, I gotta go later. Like, I mean that, but
Yeah.
that's not what this is. This is important. That's why we're here. And so it's understanding what matters, what's important, and our actions are following suit with that.
Yeah, I agree. There's I read in the book about a group of French social theorists called the Situationist International, the Situationists. They were in the 1960s in France, and there was they ranged from brilliant to mentally unhinged, I think. But one of them was named Guy Debord,
Okay.
and Guy Debord was he wrote a book called The Society of the Spectacle, and he talks in the book about the way that life has become a series of spectacles all around us. And we are not engaged in our lives directly as much as we participate by way of the spectacle of images that surround us. So I don't need to have adventures. Tom Cruise is going to have adventures in the next Mission Impossible movie, and I'll just watch that spectacle and feel as though I'm having adventures. And I don't need to fall in love because there's some, whomever. I mean, this is 20 years too late, but Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie are falling in love. You know what I'm saying? On in the tabloids and whatnot. The point being, Debord suggested, a greater engagement with the world, right? And I write
Yeah.
about it in the book that I would much rather engage with you than with the spectacle. And the spectacle might even take the place of, let's say this is my phone and I'm looking at my phone while talking to you, but I'm not really talking to you because I'm engaged with the phone. That's part of the spectacle too. And I think we
Mm,
can do better than we can do better than to engage that way rather than
yes.
this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even when we do engage this way, right? It opens up and allows for stronger connections, deeper relations, and even increase understanding. Because look, as much as we want to pretend that we can multitask, look, I'm terrible at it. I'm the worst at it, right? As much as I can pretend, I'm just horrible. And but because I recognize it within myself, I recognize there's times where no, I need to lock in now because this is important. And so it just kind of goes back to that. I love how you talked about the topic of kindness and how this fits in everything. 'Cause I don't know if necessarily people would make that connection. How did you land on kindness?
Well, I started speaking actually to elementary schoolers about kindness, about
Okay.
maybe, gosh, I mean, I did an elementary school presentation for the first time 30 years ago, but I was asked to speak to a school group, and I started speaking about kindness that day, and
Mhm.
this is years ago, and I thought, oh, this is great. I landed on it because I know that kids had such an issue with bullying, and I thought I want to speak to them to this idea, but then it became more than just bullying. Bullying was a buzzword, and a valid one.
Sure.
I started thinking, if kids were responding the way they were to the message of treat each other well, consider the potential of a friend rather than the possibility of an enemy. Uh, what would adults do in that same situation upon hearing that same information? Consider the possibility of a friend rather than the potential of an enemy. I mean, my gosh, how many problems would be solved that way? The more I kept going out and speaking to kids about this, the more I learned about adults. And the more that adults started saying to me, hey, do you do these presentations for teachers? Hey, do you do these presentations? I've got a company on the side. Do you do these presentations for? And I started realizing how necessary it was. And we live in a culture today where being mean and being bullying is almost becoming the norm. And I think we can do better than that too, certainly. So, I see it all the time. And I started out by speaking to young people. I spoke to 20,000 kids about this idea, and they responded so positively. And I thought, you know what? When I signed the contract for the book a few years ago, I thought, okay, we're diving in. We're throwing this in there as well.
Leaping into the dark, right?
That's
And
it, man.
adding that, which
Absolutely.
is a big
That's
part of
it.
what the work you do,
That's
right?
it.
I think that's a big part of it
That's it.
too.
Yep, that's it. Exactly. I mean, I think it's important, like that leaping into the dark idea is just seeing how it lands. And what's been interesting is that people have responded really well to the first strategy in the book being about kindness, rather than the first strategy in the book being be an effective leader, be a stronger teammate, be a potential this, be a business that. No, just let's be good to one another.
Be
Let's
a good
start there.
person.
We can be
Let's
good
start
to
with the
one
big
another.
looking person, right? It's like there.
Yep.
Because everything trickles out of that, right? Like it really
Yeah.
does. And so,
Yep.
and it's not a bad starting point at all.
I agree. I agree. And it's just it's been really, really effective to see that too, because it's almost like finding your people, right? I want to find the people not who pick up my book and say this isn't aggressive enough as a business book, but I want to find the people who say, oh wow, this is kind of really cool as a personal development book that speaks to values that I have as well, right? So those are the people that I want to find, and I've definitely found that for sure. I'm continuing to find that.
I'll share with you very quickly and what this kindness can do and what the power it potentially has. Literally the other day, I got into an elevator. So what I was ran out to this building to grab some lunch, and I came back and I had a pizza in my hand, and as the elevator doors were opening, a gentleman came in the lobby and was, "Hey, I'm looking for this office. You know where it is?" So I'm whining. I really legitimately do want to help this guy. He's asked me I want to help. I've got my pizza in my hand. The elevator is just open. People are filing in. I don't want to miss it. And I said to him, I said, I really don't know where this is. I'm sorry. I don't know where this is. I want to help you. I think there's a sign on the door. Check over there. And as I'm talking, I'm kind of motioning towards the elevator. And I see the doors are starting to close. And so the woman held it open for me. And I was like, oh man, thank you. And I'm not sure if I helped the guy. I tried to, but I did. I don't think I really did. But he seemed content, and that was so. I'm like, okay, great, on. I get in the elevator, and then next, a conversation ensues amongst us because they were all watching me, like being this,
All right.
like I want to help, I want to help, and it was actually kind of comical in that moment. But we get in the elevator, and all of a sudden, we're now having this dialogue. It was wonderful, good, and the energy was fantastic. It was really good energy, and I had mistakenly forgotten to push. I'm getting off at 4. The group of them are getting off at 6. Because of the dialogue, I forgot to press 4. So one of the gentlemen said, "Hey, I guess you're riding up to 6 with us." And I said, "Okay, well, I got the pizza at least. So if I get hungry, I have a snack." And so they get out of the elevator. They say, "All right, take care." I've never met them before. And as the doors are closing, I heard one of the guys say to the other, "He's a really nice guy."
Nice.
and I heard, and obviously I felt good about that, right? And I, about myself. But what I also looked at is, man, like look at all the people that were impacted positively because of that experience, right? And
Right.
me showing, trying to be as kind as I can, because when the guy asked for the elevator, I said I don't know, and I could have ran out and jumped the elevator. I gotta go. But that was the spark of a series of events there, where now people are walking away feeling good about an interaction or experience. And to me, that is the power of kindness, because now you have the ability for that and who knows where that goes. Who knows if that continues and takes the rest of the day. Who knows if they go home to the dinner table and someone tells a story about a funny experience. Who knows if it turns into a story that's being told on a podcast that others will get to hear. No one knows this, but you do it anyways. And that's for me the power of kindness.
Yeah, I agree. There's a chapter in my book, a strategy about starting a reverberation effect where we bounce ideas off one another and
Yeah.
truly connect, in positive ways. And this is an incredible example of that. It's an incredible example of reverberation in terms of, one action can lead to an entire elevator of people then going out and inspiring other people as well, and just reverberating off one another and taking your energy with the pizza and genuinely trying to help over here. And I think that's great. I love the response to people saying, "Yeah, he's a really nice guy." That's really
Yeah,
wonderful.
no, that was it. And I didn't even give him pizza for that. I didn't get no pizza. And he thought I was a nice guy. Like, imagine I shared the pizza, man.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. That would have been pretty amazing if you turned around up and down on the elevator, just eating an entire pizza. That would have been really wonderful.
That's funny. Um, again, the idea of going into the dark. I think Martin Luther King Jr. has a quote about taking that step, not knowing where the staircase is going, but just taking that first step anyways. And there's such incredible significance in that, because you never truly know. As much as we want to, plan out our lives and make sure all the ducks are where they're supposed to be, they never really are. They really aren't. And I can remember I can remember instances where you take a step in one way, think it's something else, and
Right.
something bigger and brighter comes that you never saw, but you wouldn't have known until you've taken that first step. And so there's much to be said about that. I would imagine you've got a perspective here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we talked earlier about I didn't use these terms, but you know, entering into something unconditionally, right? Yes. Wouldn't it be amazing if somebody watches our interaction in this podcast, hires us each as keynote speakers, trainers, consultants, authors, whatever, and pays us millions of dollars to have conversations like this all over the world because of this conversation?
Right,
Yes, that would be absolutely awesome. But unconditionally speaking, just connecting with you right now, it's absolutely awesome to be connecting with somebody new right now and with your
right. Yep,
listeners right
yep.
now, regardless of what comes later. And I think
That's
that
right.
it's, just that unconditional approach to life, that's an audacious way of living too, when we're living because this moment has value and this conversation has value and this
Yeah,
experience has value, not because of what might come of it or how
yeah.
I might profit off of it. I'm
Right.
profiting right now, right? I'm
That's right.
profiting from this connection.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I oftentimes will sort of talk about that. It's I'm planting the seeds now. When it'll grow is whenever it'll grow, and I'm not really focused on that. But if I keep planting, right? If I keep planting enough, I'm gonna get to a day of harvest at some point where they're just gonna come and keep it coming, and that's when I'll collect my wins. I got no control over the when part. That's not on me, right? But at the same time, as you go through life, and like I truly, Greg, I'm telling you, I truly, even in this exact moment, I'm harvesting, I'm winning, I'm getting something. As much as this is a podcast is produced and managed by Audley Stevens, and what he does, I'm also winning. I'm getting insights. I'm getting perspectives. New connection, new relationship, like all these things. I am winning. So I am harvesting now, right? But I've been planting seeds for a long time,
I love it.
right? And then that's what it is. And so, and what that also does, it puts more value on the moment. It makes this moment that much more important. And
I
if we can approach situations in that vein, I just think we're setting ourselves up for a great deal of success down the road, whenever that
Yeah.
comes.
Yeah, whenever it comes, and a great deal of success now, meaning, I would love to live my life in a way that said I was happy in each moment of my life, rather than worrying about the future in each moment of my life, or worrying about regretting the past in each moment of my life. And not even to sound, metaphysical, but quite literally. I mean, I would just love to be happy in each moment. That sounds great to me. That sounds
Not
Like
bad.
really great. There's no problem with that at all. I mean, I live in Seattle, Washington. So our baseball team is the Seattle Mariners. The Seattle
Yep.
Mariners are they've never made it to the World Series. They had the longest drought in professional sports without making it to the playoffs. And there was a moment that happened when we did make the playoffs. Okay, a
Okay.
couple years. Our player Cal Raleigh hits a home run, bottom of the ninth, full count, hits this home run. I'm standing there at the stadium. Cal Raleigh hits the home run. I turned to the guy next to me who I'd met an hour beforehand and hugged him and wept openly. Okay. Literally wept openly. And like,
That's the best.
it was unreal. One of the greatest. I literally have goosebumps right now thinking about Cal Raleigh's home run. It's just unbelievable. The point is that if I go to and the Mariners that did not do well in the playoffs that year, and they didn't make the playoffs the year after. The point is, if I go to opening day this year with the expectation that they must win the World Series, probably going to be disappointed. If I go to the opening day this year and enjoy the game, enjoy my friend, enjoy the French fries, enjoy just being at a baseball game, enjoy
Yep.
every moment, every pitch. That sounds to me way more proactive and a better way to live than waiting for, the last pitch of the season in hopes that maybe they make. No, just we'll get there.
Yeah.
Let's just like plant the seeds today of enjoying every moment as we can. That sounds like audacious living to me. That really
It
does.
is, and sports can provide so many wonderful examples of just what we're talking about, and because there's other piece about this, Greg, is that and I'm a basketball guy, right? And so
Yep.
it doesn't matter, how many times I've practiced that free throw as a kid in the driveway. It's not going to guarantee that when a moment counts that I'm going to hit it when the game is on the line.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I've told the story on this podcast before. A gentleman by the name of Nick Anderson. I played for the Orlando Magic. And in 1992, Orlando was in the finals against the Houston Rockets. And
Hmm.
in the closing games of game one in the finals, Nick Anderson, I can't remember how much time was on the clock, but seconds literally. And Nick Anderson was fouled. Orlando just needed to hit one of them. Hit one of them, or well, I mean, two would be perfect, but hit one of them to put the game out of the reach of Houston. And Nick Anderson was a reliable player. He was steady his whole career. He was a staple on that team. He stepped up to the line. He missed the first one. He's like shocked. You can see everyone's like, oh. He shakes it off and goes, okay, no, I got the second one. He missed the second one. Okay. The ball goes off the rim. It's scrambled. Blah, blah, blah. It lands back in Nick Anderson's hands, and he's fouled again. Okay. He now has the exact same scenario as just presented with even less time on the clock. Okay. Now he goes steps up. He misses a third free throw. Sets up for the fourth free throw. He misses that too. Houston gets the ball. They get back to the other end. They shoot a three. It ties the game. It goes into overtime. Houston wins that game in overtime. In fact, there was such an emotional and psychological letdown that Houston went on to win the next three games and sweep the series. And the team never recovered from those four free throws. And being a basketball guy, years later, I had an opportunity to sit down with Nick Anderson
Oh,
and
wow.
interview him, and you got to ask that, right? And I'm sure, and as and I had mentioned that, like, we're going to talk about this, and because and I know he's gone through that nauseum his whole life, but he's like, yeah, let's talk about it. And so when we got into it, he goes, listen, I stepped up and I did the best I absolutely could. You know, I did not go there to miss a free throw, much less four of them. That wasn't the intent. I did everything I possibly could, and but sometimes you're not going to be successful.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to run into this thing called failure, and what do you do? And so, and actually, it did have sort of long term impacts, like for a while, just psychologically for him because of this moment that he replays, and it doesn't help that you're in front of the world where every person that you meet is going to ask you to replay that event over and over and over again. But again, life presents these opportunities, and we don't have guarantees. Is really the point.
Well, yeah, and also we have to roll with it. I mean, I know we've gone off on a sports tangent, which I don't mind at all. Bill Buckner had a ball go through his legs, Game 5, Game 6, 1986 World Series. Mookie Wilson's at the plate, and hits a routine ground ball to Bill Buckner. It goes through his legs at first base. This is the you bend down, you put the point of your glove on the
Yes.
ground
Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
ball doesn't go through your legs. You learn that
Yeah.
in
Little
Little
League.
and ball goes through his legs. Okay, so
Yeah.
Bill Buckner spent the entire rest of his life managing that one play when he'd had a pretty storied career up until then. And after that, it was entirely different for him. I don't think that we can condemn ourselves for our mistakes if we've done the best we can, and for whatever
Exactly.
reason
Yeah.
the ball goes through Buckner's legs. If he was distracted, that's on him to explain and describe and
Sure.
learn from. But I think that we can do better than condemning ourselves for our mistakes or anticipating mistakes. I think that, when they happen, camera doesn't go well, ball goes through our legs. Granted, that is a high pressure situation. And I actually had a conversation a chance to have, not a conversation, but to ask by way of a website. I asked Mookie Wilson for a video. I hired Mookie Wilson to record a video at one point to talk about that experience, and he still celebrates it. It's pretty amazing. Understandably. The point though
Sure.
is, the point though is things happen. Your basketball example, this guy goes up to the free throw line. He misses four. He didn't intend to miss four. And you know what? Things are going to happen today for our listeners, for us, that are the ball going through our legs. And we got to keep going. Because ultimately, if I was asked the point of all this, I would say, the point isn't to get more podcasts, to make more profit. The goal is to experience more life. I
Right.
want to experience more life in every moment. I want this conversation to be the best it can be, not because I get to write with a solid gold pen next week from the profits I make from it, but rather because it makes me feel more alive to be in this moment with you. So we
Yeah.
want more life from these experiences as best we can, whether highs or lows along the way.
Yeah. 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 And you talked about the reverberation, and the thing that always excites me and thrills me is, Greg, at the end of this conversation, we'll talk what we talked about. People will take what they want to take from it, but I'm more than certain that someone will hear something and they'll take action, and it'll skyrocket them somewhere, or change your perspective, or positively impact someone in their world. And you and I will have no clue. We'll have no
Well,
clue
no,
what we've done at all, at all.
at
And
all.
that's the part that's just exciting, because that's limitless potential. Now we're talking about,
That's right.
right?
We're gonna start, basically, we have the potential to start a revolution of people carrying pizzas who do kind things for one another.
That's right. That's right. There we go. And we're on our way. We're on our way. For listeners that wanted to connect with you directly, Greg, or pick up a copy of your book, where can we set them?
Yeah, if you go to gregbennick.com, it's GregBennick, gregbennick.com. There's links about my speaking and workshops and master of ceremonies and type work and the book. Everything's on gregbennick.com. You need it, it's there, gregbennick.com. And you can see my new speaking promo video there as well. It's a great place
Great.
to go, and I'd love to hear from anybody anytime.
Well, we absolutely will make sure that the your contact details are in the show notes as well. Greg, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate the insights. The in-depth conversation on focus and distractions, and why it's so key to reclaim the moment and be here right now,
Thank you.
and leave our phones where they're at. I think that's really important, and it does so much. Even, and we didn't even talk about in depth about what it does for our relationships, but that's just another positive offshoot by how much staying in the moment, how much they can positively impact the people around us. And so, all great stuff. But more importantly, I also want to thank you for being a guest here on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
Back, we are here on the podcast. During our conversation with Greg, he emphasized a powerful point: the significance of living in the moment and recognizing that experiences hold more value than profits. He shared a really compelling analogy about how lives can become overshadowed by distractions, just like a beautiful painting obscured by layers of dust. By choosing to focus on kindness and being present, we can not only enrich our lives but also create create a reverberation effect where one act of kindness inspires others, creating a ripple effect that uplifts everyone around us. What I really loved about our conversation with Greg was his passion for fostering genuine connections. His stories and insights reminded me that every interaction holds the potential for profound impact, and that embracing the present can lead to unexpected joys and deeper relationships. Now, if you've enjoyed today's conversation and want to learn more from Greg, I encourage you to connect with him directly. You can find all of his contact details and links to his work in the show notes below. Be sure to check out as well any the special offers Greg is making available for listeners, including his book, Reclaim the Moment, which is filled with valuable strategies to enhance your life and relationships. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's offering, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, or share this podcast, and that you do so with family and friends. If you haven't already done so, your support helps us to continue to grow and reach even more listeners who are ready to embrace their audacious lives. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.